Yeah, so my name is Tyler Stefanich, and I am the manager of the UCLA Gamelab, and uh, director of the lab is Professor Ido Stern. And basically, the UCLA Gamelab is a community and a research lab here at UCLA for people uh, all across campus from different disciplines, really interested in games as a medium and a form of expression. So, and really, they're interested in kind of redefining and expanding the definition of what it means to be a game. And so we have people from that are writers, English majors, computer science, mathematicians, designers, illustrators, studio artists, all interested in games and kind of the potential of them.
So it's not just students.
It is primarily students. We do have an artist in residency program that we invite people from outside of the institution to come and participate and kind of stay for 3 or 6 month periods.
Okay, so are you in the lab right now?
Yes, I am.
So can you explain us how it's organized, the space, and how people work together and how it works?
Yeah, so the lab, I can kind of walk around if others can kind of see. So when you enter the space, it's fairly kind of small. There's a couple people here. It's a holiday weekend, so there's not too many people, but essentially, so it's the lab functions in kind of like an incubator in some fashion that people get access to the lab. There's a few computers with software and tools on them. We have like a small area for doing electronics and soldering, but really it's kind of just like a small computer lab as far as equipment goes. But the way it typically works is people kind of request access and propose projects that they're interested in working on, and then it's a very kind of organic way that collaborations start. But yeah, the lab is pretty minimal as far as equipment goes.
How many square meters? It's 40? Well,
yeah.
It's a whole.
That would be probably.
The whole lab is here. So there is no other room, hidden room.
No.
With arcades or things like that.
No, yeah. So it's about 10 computers, 5 on each side.
I don't see any Game Boys or all these video games.
We do have some. A collection of a few things.
Okay.
A Dreamcast, an Atari, a Nintendo 64.
What is that? It's Atari. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we definitely probably, although that we make games, we probably don't play as many as you would think in the lab. It's often the space is used mostly for work.
Yeah, just like in lab. It's not a game place. It's not a place just to play with games. It's to reconstruct them.
Another thing about the lab. Oh, I was going to say another thing about the lab. All these posters on the wall are actually from exhibitions or workshops that we've hosted here. And currently we're starting to get ready for our big annual game art exhibition at the Hammer Art Museum in November.
Could you explain what is this big event? Because it's quite particular.
Yeah, so the Game Art Festival is hosted by the Hammer Art Institute, Hammer Art Museum, and basically it's a showcase of around 50 game art projects. So things that are could be video pieces, installations, or games, kind of. And it's part rock concert meets gallery exhibition, and basically, yeah, about a third of it is UCLA work.
No, because Edo Stan told me it's a kind of festival where people drink.
Yeah, no, definitely. And this year, yeah, we're hoping to have basically about a third of it will probably come from UCLA, and then a third from kind of the United States, and about a third from across kind of around the world from other places.
Is it people from the artist residency in your game lab, or can it be people from abroad, just people doing games?
Yeah, so it's not people associated with the lab at all. It's just people making interesting work. So
okay. So what interests you in doing game? Because it's not a game design school. It's not it's something quite different. Could you explain us the difference?
Yeah, so yeah, like you said, there isn't a game design program necessarily at UCLA, and so it places the lab in kind of this unique position to be a bridge across disciplines. And although many of the people in the lab have taken like maybe one of the game design courses offered at UCLA with Edo, it is really it becomes people from all these other disciplines bringing kind of their own practice to the craft of game making. And so we have sound artists working with games, we have performance artists working with games, and then we have people that are that came to UCLA that were interested in making games. So.
And what is the relationship to the industry? Is it really an independent place, or a place where to imagine another way to play game?
Yeah, so for us, the lab is we're not very connected to the industry, and in a lot of ways, we're not so concerned at what's happening there or necessarily directly participating in it. And so, not that we're like anti-institutional with it. It's just it's different concerns. And so, you know, in a lot of ways, I view the lab as like a group of artists making games in some ways, like an artist collective in some way, where the industry is going to be much more interested in maybe the marketability of an idea. Or, I mean, we definitely have people that are in the independent game scene, but it's the lab sits in a very different place, I think.
Mm-hmm. Do people from Indicate or from GDC come to the festival, or is it really split between I don't know, an indie scene of game makers and the game industry?
Yeah, I mean, at the festival, we get a very eclectic group in a lot of ways. We get the people from the independent game scene, students, people that would traditionally go to kind of the Hammer Museum, all kind of coming together and mingling and kind of making a very kind of interesting crowd, I think. But yeah, I mean, I haven't been. I've only been to the 2013 one, and it was before my time as manager. So I'm not entirely sure of all of the nuances of the audience members, though.
Okay. And could you just tell us how many people are coming or are part of the UCLA Game Lab? Is each year different or each month? I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we're definitely tied into kind of the school schedule. And so we have many more people during the school year that are actively involved and in the lab. But it ranges anywhere probably from maybe 15 to 25 every quarter. All kind of different varying degrees of how much they're involved. Some people are here every day and stay really late. The lab has 24-hour access for them. So, and some, just will kind of work from like 9 to 5 and leave.
Okay. And could you just tell us about one or two projects you made in the Game Lab so we can figure out what it is, what kind of projects you're dealing with?
Yeah. So I mean that just like the diversity of people in the lab, we definitely make a diverse set of projects. And so we have things that are like board games, card games, digital games, performance-based games, games made for the Xbox and iPad, and things that are even more involved, like highly technical projects. One of the projects, which is hanging from the ceiling, which you can see behind me.
Yes.
So this was a big project in the lab, and this was actually Ido Stern's project. It's called Flatland, and if you're familiar with the story, it's a story about a society of shapes. A mathematician wrote it in, I think it was the early 1900s. But so those things you see behind me up on the ceiling are basically costumes that people would wear. And I can kind of show you.
This is Edo.
You can kind of see
in the middle.
So you can kind of see that there's like a costume that this person is wearing.
Yeah.
And each player in the game would have these shape scepters that have little cell phones embedded in them, and they would kind of show you where you are in the game space. And on the ceiling of where the game was exhibited, there would be this camera rig system. While players would move around in the costumes, they would move around in the game. And each one of the scepters had sensors in them to detect different types of gestures. So you could have a gesture to attack, to mine for resources. It was kind of like a strategy game to play against other players.
And did the player know what kind of gesture they had to do?
Yeah, there was like a liaison that would kind of help run the game to teach you kind of different things you could do. Another game. I'm not sure if we can share desktop on this. I don't know if that's easy, but that might be. I might be able to share my screen with you.
Yeah, I think you could.
So can you see our website?
I can see a blank page. Yes, I can see it.
Oh, great.
Banana Oculus. Okay.
So another game that I can show is we have this game Object Teef that has traveled to different festivals, and it's a card game. And basically the way it works is, well, let me tell you a little bit about the backstory of it. And so this was a game that was made in response to an article in Psychology Today. And it was an article that said, why are, sorry, lost my train of thought. Basically, why are Black women less attractive than other women? And it was this kind of empirical evidence of why this was so. And so this was a card game to basically kind of unpack what it means to be beautiful and kind of subjectivity. And so the way the game works is that there are 48 different women in the deck, and it's a 3-player game. And so if you and I were playing the game, for example, I would get 3 cards, and you would get 3 cards, and there would be one additional person that would be the judge. And what we would have to do as players, we would look at our cards and look at the women that are in our hand, and basically determine what we think the judge would find most attractive. So they would kind of close their eyes, we would place our cards down, they would flip them over, and they would have to.
What is the judge judging?
So they have to pick what they find is most attractive, and then they have to justify it.
Okay.
And so for people that maybe you're close with, this game is uncomfortable and challenging in some ways. And then if you play this game with people you don't know, it's challenging and uncomfortable in different ways. But you would basically pick one of these cards here, and you would have to sort of talk about them and sort of say, I like, this woman's shoulders, or I don't like this woman's hair color or this haircut. And you kind of have to explain your reasoning.
Mm-hmm. And so this was exhibited in your game art festival?
Yeah, in 2013. Over Christmas, it was in a festival in France, but I don't remember the name off the top of my head of like where it got to. I think it was iGamer, maybe i4Gamer. It was like a serious games conference, and it got like an honorable mention.
Okay. I don't know what kind of event it is. But, well, and who made the drawings? Is it collaborative also, or is it only one person?
One person.
Okay.
One thing about the card game that by playing it you may or may not exactly run into. Do you see this card here?
Yes.
That I have. So then there are doppelgangers of each woman. So there's 2 versions of them. One that is generally lighter and one that's darker. And so sometimes when you play, you'll actually have to choose between the same 2 women, but the only difference is maybe skin color.
And did you remark that people are choosing the card with pale color? Is it true that people prefer white to black?
That I don't think she's done any sort of data collection on whether that, like, what the outcomes and what cards people were choosing. But she's definitely played it with a lot of different age ranges, also kids to adults, and it's different with every kind of group of people.
Okay. Maybe we can save a few things to say for tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.